So everything begins to change now. We now begin to look at things differently. When I pray my salat, for example, and I say, بِحَوْلِ اللَّهِ وَقُوَّتِهِ أَقُومُ وَأَقْعُدْ. Or even if I just recite the hawqala and I say, لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ الْعَلِيِّ الْعَظِيمِ. Notice now, if we want to really, pick on the words in this sentence carefully, I am not saying it is with the power and strength that comes to me from God that I am sitting and standing. What I'm actually saying is, it is with God's power and by Him that I am standing and I am sitting. But salat is simply a training ground. It is not that you stand and sit in your ruku and you sujood with Allah's power, but everywhere else you stand and sit with your own power. Not at all. بِحَوْلِ اللَّهِ وَقُوَّتِهِ أَقُومُ وَأَقْعُدْ is even now, because right now you are sitting because of God's power. Otherwise you have no ability to even sit or lie down or stand or have any form of existence. Now, let me try again here, once more, just to sort of try and make this a little more, comprehensible. Let us suppose we took every one of the names of Allah and said every one of these names is a source through which we acquire different forms of energy and different abilities. And we say that Allah has not 99 names or 1,000 names, but millions and millions of names. Can we now begin to see how we can draw from different sources for everything we do? Let us take an example. Let us suppose there is an enlightened man, someone like Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Why do I mention him? I mention him because he has a tradition in which he says, I have never seen a thing except that I have seen Allah before it, and I've seen Allah after it, and I've seen Allah above it, and I've seen Allah below it. What does he mean? That whatever I see, I only see Allah interacting in everything I see. So let us suppose you have someone like him, an enlightened being, and he's watching another human being, living a life and moving through life. What is he seeing? He sees the man walking down the street. What he sees is Al-Qadiru playing itself out, because it is with the power of God that the man is walking. The man is looking around. As he's looking around, what he sees is Al-Basiru is manifesting itself, because whatever you see, any form of vision, ultimately comes from him. And the man is listening to the sounds around him. Those are coming from As-Sami'u. Now as he's walking, he sees a beggar on the side of the road sitting there and asking for some help. Now the man feels some compassion in his heart. That compassion is not any inherent goodness that comes from him. It is Al-Hannanu that is manifesting himself. So he puts his hand in his pocket to remove some money, and that is Ar-Razzaqu playing itself out, because that wealth came ultimately from Ar-Razzaq. He takes out and he gives some change to the poor man. Now that is Al-Jawadu playing itself out. He walks further on and someone calls him again for help. And now An-Nasiru is beaconing him. But now Shaitan uses his ego and causes him to fall asleep and become unconscious and heedless. So now he blocks that An-Nasiru from manifesting itself. Because of that heedlessness and unawareness, that name does not manifest itself. Now the self-will, the egoic self-will that stands in rebellion to surrender to God, blocks that name from manifesting itself at that point. And then as he goes home, he realizes, what I did was wrong. I should have helped the man. And he feels a sense of regret. So Al-Ghafuru begins manifesting himself. He asks Allah for forgiveness. At-Tawwab manifests itself. So even when you seek forgiveness, it is Allah's blessing and manifestation. Otherwise, we in ourselves have no inherent goodness to manifest that. And then he goes home and he sees his child, and there is this overwhelming love for the child, and Al-Wadudu begins to play itself out. The child is crying, so he picks the child up and he kisses the child, and now Ar-Rahimu is playing itself out. Do you begin to see that human beings in themselves inherently have no goodness that they can take credit for? All credit ultimately belongs to God, which is what we said yesterday from Ayatul Kursi. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. They have no access to any form of knowledge except what He releases and gives to them. If we embrace this idea, it removes a lot of malice within society and community as well. Why? Now when I see someone who has any kamal in him, I don't feel jealous of him. Instead, I admire him, because what I am seeing is God manifesting Himself through that creation. I have no reason to feel jealous, because there's nothing good in him. If he is displaying such great knowledge, it's not him that is it is Al-Alimu manifesting. I should be admiring Allah, just like you admire the sunset. You say, Subhanallah, what a great creator. Look at what He is doing through this creation. And then individually as well, I have no reason to feel proud. If I see something great about me, whether I am very generous in helping others, or whether I'm very knowledgeable, or whether I'm very good looking, or whatever it is, when I embrace these ideas, I begin seeing that there is only Allah manifesting His names through different creation. There's no reason for me to take credit for it. Right? If I am a teacher and I impart knowledge, it is Al-Alimu that is working through me. If I'm a doctor and I help people, it is Ash-Shafi'u that is manifesting. Yet, if anything, then all I can do is express gratitude and say that I thank Allah that when He chose to manifest Himself, He chose this worthy, humble set of vibrating atoms to manifest that. Otherwise, He could have chosen another set of atoms to do that. And that is why a couple of, a week or 2 weeks ago, one young man asked me, he said, tell me, the first principle in Islam is Tawheed. What if the first principle in Islam had been to care for others and care for humanity? How do you think the world would have turned out? Would it have been a better place? And I said to him, if anything other than Tawheed was the first principle of religion, this world would have been far worse than it is today, though you cannot imagine it. Why? Because inherently there is nothing good in the individuals that you see around the world. Whatever good they display is coming from Allah. Tawheed is primary, and it is the most fundamental and important principle, because when Tawheed is acknowledged, then there is no resistance to these beautiful names of Allah. It allows them to manifest, which then allows justice and kindness and compassion and generosity and humanitarian help for each other to help. It is just God's principle that Aballahu an yajri al-ashya illa bi asbabiha. Allah has decreed that He refuses to do anything directly except through causes and effects. So Allah has decreed that when He wants to help the poor, He will not drop gold coins from the heavens to them. He will get another human being to help that. But there is no question here that we do so much for human beings, why doesn't Allah do? It is Allah doing it through you. When you ask the question, why do children suffer? It is God who is crying through your heart and asking, why is He suffering? So that you may do something about it. And that is why Tawheed is central. When you oppose Tawheed, when you embrace shirk, if human beings had not embraced Tawheed, and they would have all had rigid egos by which they completely resist the names of God, then all you would have seen is chaos. You would have seen selfishness. You would have seen only animalistic behavior. You would have seen the world being far worse than it is today. If you can recite as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.